How are we doing, folks? Hope everyone is well. I'm just quickly doing a quick test. Okay. What's the quality coming out like? Stream rate 4,500. Okay, right. Settings. Stream. Outputs. Streaming. Let's do. Just quickly doing some changes in OBS to see if this helps. I won't be long, guys. I'm just sorting out the. That looks better there. So that's showing green in OBS. Let's have a quick look. I just want to have a quick look on YouTube, see if this is coming through a bit better on the YouTube end. Okay, let's do a quick test 1 2, test 1 2. I won't be long, guys. Just sorting out the. Okay, seems to be looking a bit better. Let me know about the stream quality. I've messed around with a few OBS settings, and I just want to make sure it's all coming through okay. It's showing in OBS that it's coming through. It's got a green light there, so it looks as if it's coming through a bit better. OBS is looking good. Let's have a quick look at the YouTube. Excellent connection. Great stuff. So I hope that's actually coming through a bit better now. So that is enough of that. Fantastic. How is everyone? And thank you for anyone who's joining us on this live stream today. We are going to be going through a design process of designing speaker stands. So I put a poll up on the community channel or the community section on the YouTube channel, and the overall feedback was an overwhelming yes. You'd like to see me make some speaker stands. So what I want to do today is go through the design process. I want to use Tinkercad to go through a few different design options, and yeah, hopefully it should be some quite good fun. Hopefully give you some tips and some advice. I've got a bit of background information to go through first, just some things we need to kind of cover around what we need as minimum standards for design, etc. But yeah, looking forward to it. I'm using Tinkercad, and the reason I'm using Tinkercad is because it's simple to use. I started to have a look at the Google SketchUp, or SketchUp, I think it's part of the group, Google group, and I've used it before, but it's so fiddly. It's not really something that I could do justice on a live stream. So I'm going to use Tinkercad, and hopefully we'll get some different designs going. So yeah, let me know. As part of these live streams, this is going to be all open Q&A. So if you've got any questions at all, I've now got my setup slightly changed. So I've got the main monitor on the wall here, and I've got the dual screen on the laptop. So I've got all the comments separated, or the chat separated from the main screen. So if you've got any questions at all, leave some questions in the chat and we'll go through. And yeah, so let's kind of, without further ado, let's get cracking on. Just a couple of brief bits of updates first and foremost. Apologies not been around, I haven't posted for a little while. I've been super flat out doing all sorts of website work and all sorts of different other things, and a few mastering jobs, doing a blog post for a particular company around audio and blogging and things like that. So yes, all those things have been taking up some time. But in the interim, you will see at the bottom of the screen here that there is now an additional email. So to make things hopefully simpler, the mastering, and I'm also offering mixing services. So this is something I've been doing for quite some time anyway, not necessarily advertised. I do it more for select jobs, but I've now started to advertise full mixing and mastering services through the brand name Progressive Sound Audio. So you will see the email address there, progressivesoundaudio.com. So it's very much linked to Mastering in the Box. Mastering in the Box is not going away. Mastering Box is going to stay as it is. But to make things easier, there's a bit of a disconnect between the services that I offered in terms of the mastering and now the mixing to the educational side of things in the YouTube channel. So I've separated those two parts out. You will still be able to, in due course, find all the details through the masteringinthebox.net website. But I now have a new website called progressivesoundaudio.com, which is my trading name for my mixing and mastering services. So if you're interested in any mixing and mastering services, head on over to progressivesoundaudio.com and drop me a note. There's a full contact form on there. I'm opening this up for the time being at very competitive rates whilst I start to increase the customer base. So if you're interested in any mixing and mastering services, head on over to progressivesoundaudio.com. I'm even offering free test mix and masters. So if you're interested, then please get in touch and we'll sort something out for you. So yeah, so masteringinthebox.net is still going to be there. So that's going to be for all of the educational side around mastering and digital digital audio, and then the Progressive Sound Audio will be for the mixing and mastering. But very much, it's just different brand names just to separate it out for ease of access, really. Let me know if you've got any problems with the audio and the video. Once again, there's a new OBS setup, so just let me know if you've got any issues at all with the audio or the video. Please let me know. Drop me a note in the chat, and I'll go through and adjust that. Once again, I've got the super chat open, so now the channel is monetized for advertising revenue. The super chat is available. So any support you can provide will be greatly appreciated. A lot of these videos, they do take a lot of time. I'll give you a bit of an idea. Just to prepare for today's live stream, it's probably taken me all day. So if there's any support that you want to provide, if you like the videos and if you like the live streams, feel free, leave a super chat. Ask any questions you like and I'll get onto those as well. So that is just a bit of a background, and let's, without further ado, crack on to let's head on over to the design basics. Let's just have a quick look. I'll try to have a quick look here. Okay, that's all fine. So YouTube is looking fine, so it's all streaming through. Still not overly impressed with that quality of the stream. I'll have to look into that and work out what I can do here. There's no delay. It's just a very grainy picture, which is not showing on OBS, so not much I can do about it when I've already started the live stream. So, okay, right, let's ignore that. Let's go on to some speaker stand designing. So, let's just start with a quick disclaimer. I am not a trained acoustician. I know a fair bit, but I'm certainly not going to say I'm an expert acoustician. But I've done a lot of research into this, and once again, I'm not a professional speaker stand manufacturer. But what I've done is I'm going to show you the core concepts that you need to understand in relation to designing speaker stands, why you need to design them. And so all of this information we're going through today is based off of my research, knowledge and experience. So the other thing as well, I want this to be as simple as possible. So the technical aspects of this is going to be kept to the bare minimum. I don't want it to get overwhelmed in lots of technical details. So I want to try and keep this as simple as possible, and hopefully these will be hopefully be very easy to understand. But if you've got any questions, once again, leave them in the chat down below. So first and foremost, let's quickly discuss. So why do you use speaker stands? Speaker stands are not just a pretty little ornament to go on the desk or on the floor. There is actually quite a few reasons why you should use a speaker stand, a dedicated speaker stand. And the main reason is actually to reduce or eliminate distortion. And when I say distortion, effectively we need to understand how a speaker actually works. So speakers are designed with effectively a vibrating membrane, and it's that vibrating membrane that releases the sound out of the speaker. Now, what you need to do is to ensure that vibrating membrane is not subject to additional vibrations from external sources. So let's take an example of a speaker case or a cabinet or enclosure. Now, if you've got a speaker itself with the vibrating membrane, and if the cabinet in which that speaker is enclosed in starts to vibrate, then effectively what you'll add is additional vibrations on top of the vibrating membrane, and you will effectively introduce distortion. So you're not going to get a true reproduction of the sound that the speaker is designed to give, which is why we really need to start thinking about how we can isolate the vibrations from the membrane and just ensure that it's only the membrane that vibrates alone. Because any additional vibration in your setup, whether it's through the speaker cabinet, through your desk, through the floor, this will all add to the vibration of the membrane and then start to cause distortion with the speakers. So it's all based around ensuring we have an optimal sound. It needs to be vibration free, and it's all based around reducing or eliminating distortion. Now, I think it's fair to say when it comes to speaker cabinet enclosures or the actual boxes that the speakers are enclosed in, they are specifically designed to reduce or eliminate distortion or additional vibrations. So if you think about that, that's why they're hard, rigid, screwed into the actual cabinet and enclosures themselves. So the whole setup, the whole speaker itself, including the enclosure, is designed specifically to eliminate distortion. However, by the time you then put that speaker onto a desk, if you put it flat onto a desk, now because the actual speaker itself, the membrane vibrates, and depending on what kind of volume you put through your speakers, obviously the whole enclosure will vibrate as a whole. And if those vibrations then go through your desk, that's going to add additional vibrations and it's going to cause distortion. So therefore you're not going to get a true replication of the sound coming through the speaker. So this is one of the reasons why speaker stands are so important. And let's also not forget additional thing with speaker stands as well is they're designed to place your speaker at the correct height for the most optimal listening experience. So think about it in two aspects. Is one, certainly to get the speakers at the right height, but more importantly, it's to reduce or eliminate distortion from your speaker. So those are the two main reasons why you should use speaker stands. So let's then discuss, so how do you eliminate vibrations affecting a speaker? And this is when it starts to get a little bit more technical, because there's two real techniques, let's say, that are commonly used when it comes to speaker stand design. And there's two ways to look at this, which are the terms coupling and decoupling. Now, I'm not too sure if you've heard of these. If you have, you've got some basic knowledge. These are effectively two counter-opposite techniques. So coupling is a process where you eliminate vibrations by ensuring that the speakers and the speaker stands themselves, and effectively the speaker, is coupled to the floor. So the floor itself is a large wide space, and the aim of this is to ensure that the speaker is coupled to the floor, so it's effectively as one with the floor. So when the vibrations go through your stands, they go through into the floor and disperse through the floor rather than resonating back up and into the speaker. So it's a technique that's used to minimise unwanted vibrations and resonances by increasing a speaker's connectedness to the ground. So the vibrations from the speaker do not get pushed back into the enclosure. Instead, they are absorbed by the floor And this is a great technique to use. If you've got concrete floors or really hard floors, then coupling is a good way to do this. So if anyone's seen any speaker stands themselves and seen the ones with the spikes on the bottom, effectively the way they are designed, so the spikes actually connect with the concrete on the actual floor, and they're designed so any of the vibrations go down the stand into the floor and do not resonate the actual speaker cabinet or enclosure themselves. However, not everyone has hard concrete floors, especially me. So there's an alternative method called decoupling, which is the total opposite. And it sounds a little bit kind of counterintuitive. How can you have total opposites? Well, this is a case where you use coupling to make sure that the speakers are at one with the ground. Well, this is the total opposite. What you want to do is decouple, so you want to make sure it's not in connection with the ground. So what you do is you use damping effectively, and use damping materials to eliminate vibrations as they go down through your speaker stand. And this way, so rather than actually being in connection with the ground and dispersing the vibrations through the ground, you're effectively ensuring that the speakers are decoupled. They're using some form of damping, and what that will eliminate is the vibrations effectively going through the stand and then resonating back up into the speaker enclosure. So this is where you get things like the a lot of rubber pads and the ISO pads and things like that. That's an example of decoupling. So it's using a damping material which is going to ensure that the vibrations do not resonate back up into the enclosure themselves. So this is what we're going to do. This is a great technique to be used for floors where, say for me, I've got wooden laminate flooring in here. The floor is not, it's nice and sound, but it's still got some movement in there. So coupling, attaching it to the actual floor itself is not going to be an option. So I'm going to look to create some stands that decouple, and it's very much designed to ensure that there's damping material added to the speaker stand to ensure that the vibrations don't resonate through the speaker stand and back up to the cabinet, and then cause that membrane to vibrate even more. There are quite a few design considerations, and once again, the speaker stands themselves, you've got two options really. You either need to design them so they are either coupled, so they are fixed, or decoupled, either for a permanent or rigid fixture or by using damping materials to avoid vibrations. This design will be decoupling the speakers as I've got laminate flooring, as we've already discussed. We need to ensure that the speakers are at the optimal height for playback, which we will cover shortly. They need to be, even if you're decoupling, they still need to be rigid. And the reason why you want them to be rigid, because if they're not rigid, then you're going to increase the chance of vibration. So the more rigid the stands are, the less chance they are of vibrating. But they also have to have sufficient mass or be of sufficient weight that they are not going to vibrate as much. So when sound is generated through the speaker and the vibrations travel down, you want them to have sufficient mass to effectively eliminate any vibrations going down through the stand. So we're going to cover that in a little bit more in depth as well. So before we get into Tinkercad, let's just quickly discuss, so what is the optimal height for speakers? And it depends who you speak to. There's lots of different trains of thought, but there is a general consensus that the speakers should be at tweeter height to your ear level. So that's something that we're gonna look at today. And I'm going to go through my own specific measurements for the speakers that I'm going to design these stands for. So let me just grab the speaker, one of the speakers. Okay. So we need to ensure we've got tweeter, woofer, tweeter needs to be at ear level. And then what we then need to do is measure the distance from the floor to ear to measure the listening or the perfect listening level. Now I've already done some measurements today, and I've done this in millimetres because I'm trying to get with the times, even though I'm used to centimetres. But the distance from floor to ear for me is 1,260 millimetres or 126 centimetres. So that's going to be from floor level to ear level. So that's from the tweeter to the floor. So ear level to the floor. So the tweeter should be at 1,260 millimetres or 126 centimetres. So then what we need to do is then calculate the distance from the tweeter to the bottom of the speaker. So I've measured these, and from the tweeter to the bottom of the speaker is 230 millimeters or 23 centimeters. Then we also need to factor in some padding, and this is, I'm going to quickly show you this here. These are some desktop speakers stands I designed a little while ago. So we've got, not only have we got the stand, but we've also got these little rubber acoustic pads here. So we also need to factor in, I'm going to add some of these onto the new stands, and these are effectively going to help decouple the speakers from the stand itself. These particular stands were just a simple wooden design, and then what I've done is I've actually filled the inside of these with sand to add mass to the overall weight of the stands themselves, and then we've got rubber pads on the bottom of the speaker stands as well. So this is going to help, once again, it's going to help to reduce vibrations going in. These were desktop speaker stands, so we're going to do something much bigger because I want floor mounted speaker stands. But we then need to add in or factor in the fact we've got pads on top and pads on the bottom to help decouple the speakers. So let's put those back up there. So for that, I've allowed 20 millimeters or 2 centimeters for padding, or I'm going to buy some more of those rubber pads. So then if we work out the overall equation, so if it's 1,260 mils, then you've got to take off the 230 millimeters for the tweeter to the bottom of the speaker, and you need to allow 20 mils for padding, which means that the total height needs to be 1,010 millimeters tall. And in terms of the speaker width, I've measured the width as well, because this is something that we need to think about as well. How wide is the actual top of the speaker stand going to be? The speaker width is 200 mils and the depth is 290 mils. In terms of, there is a question that comes up relatively frequently, which is around, does the actual top of the speaker stand need to be wider than the speaker itself? Not necessarily. I would, at this point, there's a few factors you want to kind of consider here. Is first and foremost, you want it to be stable, so you don't want it to be too thin at the top where the speakers aren't sitting on there properly. So there needs to be a decent size, and also factor in, are you likely to buy any additional speakers at some point in the future? Because if you are, then if you're upgrading to a bigger speaker at some point down the line, then you want to just factor in that, you know, if you get if you start from a 5-inch speaker and go to a 7 or 8 inch, they're going to be a lot wider and a lot deeper. So you want to take that into consideration as well. So we've got some measurements here. So we need to make sure the entire stand is 101 centimeters or 1,010 millimeters. And we need to ensure that the top is at least 200 mil by 290 mil. So that is that. Let's quickly just head on over. Just want to quickly make sure this is all coming through okay. Yep, that's all coming through fine. Brilliant. Okay, so without further ado, let's head on over and let's have a look at doing some designs. So we've got that there. Why is this never easy? So we've got OBS. Yes, we want that. We've got that. We've got that. We've got the NDI output. Ah, there we are. We are back. So, this is Tinkercad. And like I said, I've looked at different options and I did a bit of Googling, and this, for me, it's just a nice, simple and easy system to use. So if you want to do a little bit of 3D design, you want to design your own speaker stands, then I'd recommend you checking this out. And it's www.tinkercad.com. And it's free, and it's just really simple and easy to use. This isn't going to be an in-depth Tinkercad tutorial, but what it is, hopefully it's going to give you a platform that you can use. So if you right click on your mouse, you can rotate, you can go around, and then left click is there to highlight certain areas. Now what is great about this is you can toggle up here and do the same as your right mouse button, but what you can do is create some nice basic shapes, and you can start to cut certain elements out of the stands themselves. So what I want to do first and foremost is this here is the ruler tool. And then what we can do is we can drag this pretty much anywhere. And what this is going to do is actually give us a nice little ruler so we can start to measure some bits out as well. And let's start with a nice base. So let's go with a box and let's drag that right into the corner here. So let's start by creating a nice base. So this is telling me that it's 20 by 20 by 20. So it's just a straightforward box. Now, we know that this wants to be, let's say, 1010 millimeters tall. So I really want that down to be, let's say, let's leave that as 1. I'm not going to worry too much about the, yeah. So I mean, let's say that's going to be 10 centimeters. It's going to be quite complicated with certain areas, but let's just say we've got a nice base there. What do I want the base to be? So I want this to be, so it needs to be 200 mils wide. So let's say, let's do, so this is showing here in millimeters. If I do that roll way over there, it's going to be far too big. So let's just say 20 is 200. And then what I need to then make sure this is 29. And that's just going to be the size of the actual speaker itself. Let's just start with that as a nice base point. So that is going to be the actual base itself. And as you can see, you can just drag these elements here. And you see this arrow here. If you want to make it taller, you'll lift it up. You can lift it up, lift it down, grab this one in the middle, make it taller, make it shorter. And then you can use these, you can just drag them out as to how you want it. But that's fine. And in here as well, we've got some rotating. We can rotate it however we want it. So if we want to flip the rotation, we can do that just using this tool here. So we've got a nice base there. So that's just going to be the size of the actual speaker itself. So that's going to be 20 centimeters by 29 centimeters. Okay, let's quickly come here. Now, a more traditional kind of shape, a speaker stand, you'll see a lot of these which are going to have almost like a column in the middle. So let's just quickly add this in here. And then let's say we want to, if we do a nice, let's do a relatively square. So what's that coming in? That's going to be, let's do 12 by 12. Let me quickly come out here. So if I just drag that, so that's 12 by 12, and let's see if I can, oh. So that's 11, so we'll move that to 12, that's 9, so we're going to drag that out to 12. Now once you've done that, you can effectively, you want that as solid, because you want it as a solid object, and we can, actually I don't want to lock that just yet. But let's try and centre this now. So let's centre this in the, somewhere around. Okay, in fact, I'm going to, with the base, let's move that up to there. The reason I'm doing that is because we want a nice even number. So let's work out our center point here. So that's going to be in the center on that axis. Let's switch this around here. And we'll want to center it on that axis too. So let's quickly flip that around. Great, okay. So if we then think as a straightforward stand, we have got, this is going to be 1, so that is going to be, so if we, the whole thing needs to be 101, so this needs to be 99. Okay, now instantly, this to me, that looks too small. So the base now looks too small. So we want to start thinking, these are the considerations we need to start taking into account. So if I zoom out a little bit there, the base to me looks a little bit small. So we need to kind of have a look at that in a minute. So what I can do as well is, the good thing about this is I can highlight this section here, and I can click this here to duplicate it. And if I then drag this over here, so this is giving us a duplication of this middle section. But what I want to do is I want to move that, say, to 9. I want this section here to also be, wants to be 9 by 9. I'll show you why in a second. Okay, and this is, I'm going to try and do this now. Now this section here, I've selected this part as solid, so this is going to be a solid material. But what I can actually do here is select this as a whole. So then if I then, let's do, select this, let's move this across so it's in the middle here. In fact, I might just drag that across a little bit more. Let's do 8 and see what that looks like. That fits much better in the middle there. So then this side also needs to be 8. So we've now got a nice section in the middle there. Now what I can do, hopefully if this works, select all of that, and if I've got this group function here, click on that. Now it's created a nice hole in the centre of the speaker stand. Now this is going to be like a more traditional speaker stand design. So you've got a base, you've got a column which is hollow, and then you'll have a top on top, and inside of the actual column itself you'd fill it with some form of material. Some people use sand, and it's going to add mass and weight to the overall speaker stand. So what we could effectively do is take this bottom section here, duplicate it, move it. Let's then raise it up. Okay. Let's do one more. If I come up here, let's raise that one more. And then we want to... No, I don't want to do that. I want to move it. And then we can drop that down. So that's 102, there, 101. And then what I just need to do is quickly resize this. So this section here, there, that can go there, that can go there. So what's also a good tool with this one here is if you look at, if I quickly select this and if I move any of these points here, you start to see the lines on the actual ruler itself. So it gives you a nice little point. So if you want it to run flush with the bottom plate there, you can do so by using those lines. So that is a straightforward speaker stand design. And there's a few issues with this. Like I said, I think to do this, that stand doesn't look, the bottom base itself doesn't look right to me. That needs to be bigger. To have something this size, one thing you don't want to do is have this fall over. Yes, you're going to be adding mass to the actual centre column itself, but it still doesn't look particularly... I'd probably want to move that out like that, move that out like that, to add some additional width. I might want to add it out an extra... section here. So let's just quickly look at that. I think that's still too... So that looks better. Yep, okay. So that's a bit better. And then it doesn't matter too much if the top plate is actually slightly smaller. You want to have something at the base which is gonna stand the weight. So you could have something as simple as that. And then what we can do is select all of these. We can change that to a nice... Let's choose that. In fact, that looks a bit diarrhea. Let's change it to, oh, that'll do. Oh, I don't even like that. Come on. No, let's just go back to our trusty old diarrhea. It's close enough to wood for me. Okay, let's do that. And let's lock that. So that's now not going to be, you can't adjust that. So that's going to stay in place. So that is just a straightforward, simple speaker stand design. So you've got a nice flat base. You've then got a center column, which is hollow. You can fill the center column then with anything like sand. Some people use lead weights. And then you've got a top plate here. And then effectively what you do is you'd have to add some rubber underneath. And you have to add some pads on top to act as some form of decoupling mechanism. But that should be rigid enough. And that should be sturdy enough with the additional mass to hopefully withstand any vibrations. If you've got any questions, don't forget, please drop me a quick note in the chat. I'm more than happy to take any questions at all. I just want to quickly flick over just to see if there's any, what we've got here. Okay, that's fine. So that is speaker stand design number 1. Let's try and do something a little bit different. So I'm going to use, let's quickly unlock this for a minute because I want to use the same base plate design. So let's copy that. Let's move that here. Let's give it a bit of space. So let's move that, highlight that, lock that so I can't adjust it by accident. So now we've got a nice base again. And let's just have a quick look. So that's 31 by 25. Let's try and make things nice and easy. I want to try and keep this as nice and round numbers as possible. Let's do 30 by 26. That's good enough for me. So do 30 by 26. Now let's try a different design. So we've got our height. So we now got this as a nice reference tool. Let's do, what tools here? Another great thing about this is you've got lots of different shapes here. And you've got basic shapes, you've got design, you've got characters, hardware, fun games, everyday objects, all sorts. But let's just use some basic shapes. So let's take another square, lift it up. Let's lift it up a bit. Okay. So let's make sure that's flush with the base. There. So now, what do I want to do with this one? Let's try. Right, so let's move this more into the center. Let's rotate it. So we've got a bit of a gap at the back. All the way through this, I'm looking at how stable it's going to be, because you want it to be nice and stable and rigid all the way through. So let's say, how wide do I want this? Let's say we're going to go, okay, let's do this a slightly different way. I want to create a flat panel. So let's say it's 1 wide. That's 3, that's 2, that's 1. Okay, so it's 1 wide. Okay. Let's say I want to do, let's get it up to, oh, I'm going to raise it. Let's quickly make sure I haven't. What I want to do is lift. So that needs to be 99. So that should be flush with that. Yeah, okay. So now what we can start to do is look at how we can introduce different. I want it solid. Let's change the colour to a nice diarrhea. And then click on that. I want to copy that. I can then select, I can literally just drag that across to the other side. Let's quickly rotate it, make sure it's flush. Yes. So now we've got almost 2 pieces of wood there to almost act as a column. I don't want this one to be, I want this to be kind of a transparent-ish in the middle. Okay. And then what we can do is we can do that. Let's copy that. Let's move that over here. So now we've got that. Let's do a rotate it by 90 degrees. There. Let's click and let's drag and let's put this on the back panel. So let's rotate that around. How does that sit? Let's have a quick look there. So what I want to do with this is I don't want that to be quite so... Let's put that back there. Let's rotate that. So look from the back angle. Oh, it's a bit fiddly. You've got this as well. Doesn't help that we are... go this way, zoom out. Okay, that's a bit better. Zoom in, okay. Just quickly drag that out this way. Okay, so this is going to be the width. So I want that to be 1 to match the others. Let's have a look at these edges here. I don't want this to be flush. I want to try something a bit different with this. So that's got to be 99. I want to have a little gap on that edge. So let's quickly work this out. So that's saying it's 17. It's 99. 1, 2 off there. 17 across. Okay, what are these? 22. So I want that to be... Okay, let's come back around the other side. $15. 16 there. 15 there. Okay. So it's a bit more... Okay. Let's click on this. Let's make this one a little bit thinner. Let's do 20. 1. Okay. So that's gonna... I want to try... Effectively, I want to introduce a bit of a gap here. Now, what's the width for this? This is coming at saying it's 2. So let's just quickly push it in from that side. 1. Okay. Now select that. Let's delete that. Do that. Copy that. And let's click drag there. So that's now running flush. So you could have something a bit more like that. Then if you do that, copy that section, and you can drag this right up there and do something like that. So there you've got something that's a bit more hollow in the middle. Now, I think with this particular design, you'd need to think about weights, make sure it's got enough weights. You'd need to use a relatively heavy material. So you need to think about your wood choice. You could... rigidity, it should be pretty good, because you've got... as long as you keep these pieces of wood relatively wide. So this one here, say, this is coming in at 20 centimetres. So as long as you kept it relatively wide, and then what you could use is something like dowels and screws on the top and the bottom to make it really rigid. If you're still worried about it, you could maybe even add a little shelf in there. So maybe let's just do something like that. So let's just take this here. I want this to be... oh, no, wrong one. Let's do that. Let's say we want it to be 1. Let's lift it up to 45, give or take. Let's move that across. Okay, let's just have a quick look here. What do we want this to be? So that's going to be... yeah, that's going to be roughly about there. Let's move that across in the middle. Okay, so that's going to be too wide, so we want to bring that one in. So that's okay, so that wasn't too wide. Let's do there. And you could always do something like that. And then actually, I think 45 is going to be, probably wants 55. 55, that makes sense then, doesn't it? So that would actually be, yeah, so that's going to be plumb in the middle. So let's quickly do this. You want solid, and let's do a nice diarrhea brown again. So there you could do something like that. And it's going to add some extra rigidity to your speaker stands. A little bit wide. Is it wider? Actually, it's a little bit, we've done this one, so it's a little bit shorter this way, but it should be wider this way. Let's have a look at that. That's 25, and that's 26. So it's not much. It's 1 centimetre. 1 centimetre shorter, but 1 centimetre wider. So you can have a look at something like that. I think once again, you probably want something weight-wise. You want to kind of bolster it up with. So that's another little design you can do there. So let's just quickly check that, and let's lock that one as well, so we can't delete that one by mistake. So that's another little quick chart, another quick example there. Let's just have a quick. I want to go back and see. Hopefully this is all coming through okay. Okay, so that's another design there. Now, somewhere around here, in one of my insomnia evenings this week, I started to sketch some different ideas out, and maybe we can do some different options like these here. So let's see if we can replicate something like this. So let's take our square again. Let's move it onto the front one. Let's move it over here this time. I want to try and move out away from the no, that's just going to lift it. Let's do that down to 1. Okay, in fact, let's think about this a bit differently. So let's do this 32. Let's make this a little bit wider. This I want to be, let's do 28. Okay, so that gives us a bit more of a bigger base to work with. Now, what I effectively want to do is with this one is design it. So rather than having sand all the way through, because that would be blue and heavy, if I take this, if I then copy this, if I then lift it, let's quickly go down. There's a gap there. Let's do that so it runs flush. Let's take this top section here and let's bring it in. Let's do what's this bottom section? The bottom section was 32. So if I was to say 28, so we want this to be 28. So let's try and 28. Let's move that more in the center. Okay, and let's bring that side in there. So that should give us a nice, okay, so that's nice and flush in the middle. Now what I want to do is take this section, I want to lift it by, let's say, 12. And we can effectively do, let's just lift, no, let's do, don't make it too big, 12's fine. Okay, so this is effectively going to be a sandbox. So what we could do is with this design, is we could use this as a sandbox. So if I now take that section, duplicate it, lift it, I want this to be, that's 28 by 22. So if I do this, let's do, let's do 20. And then this section here, let's quickly do this. So let's quickly just check our measurements again. So that's 28 by 22. That's 22 by 20. 22 is a bit too short. So 28. To 26. Okay. Now what we can do is we can make that a hole. And what we need to try and do is position this down in the middle. Okay, so obviously I haven't calculated that right. Let's bring that one in by 1. Bring that in by 1. In fact, let's quickly raise that. The 12, you don't want it to be 12, you want to lift this bottom section. So that needs to be 11. So the reason being, we'll create a hole in that box. So we can now take that down. And that should be sitting flush there. So now, if we take our left click, copy that area, if I then group, that's going to give us a nice hole in that box. So that is now going to be a nice sandbox, and we can fill that. So let's highlight that, let's change it to our nice diarrhea brown. Okay. Now, the way this would effectively work is you can't just use this and fill it full of sand as it is, because even if you screw this in or dowel this in, you could glue the underneath. But what I would suggest is actually in these gaps here, here, here and here, you'd want to get some form of filler. Caulking is probably the best one to use. Use a caulking. So if you're going to fill anything with sand, you want to make sure that all of these edges here are filled with caulking so the sand doesn't escape. So all of the bottom edges and the side edges where you've created the joints, you want to add some caulking in there to ensure that there's no sand that escapes. So that's created a nice little box element there. Let's take another box. Let's just have a quick look at this. So this is okay. I've got, because in fact, let's just quickly undo that. Let's do that. This section here is bottom section's 28 by 32. And what do we do this bit here as? Okay, let's just do this. Let's quickly go back there. Highlight that all again. Change it back to our colour, brown. This, we know this is going to be 1. Do you want to grab this one? Nope, this one. So that's 1. And what we can do is we can raise this. We can drag. Oh, let's click. Done it again. That's better. So that's now going to go over the top. So let's just make sure we can get this flush. So that needs to come over by 1. So that's now going to be flush with that. Let's move that down. It should be, yep. And this can come in. Is that? Come over one more. So that should be flush with that. So that's created almost a box. So that's going to add so we've got a sandbox in the bottom of the stand there. So you could fill that full of sand, add the caulking around it, and then what you can do is extend it upwards from there. So that's going to add mass to the bottom of the stand itself. So whereas this one will be filled with sand, you'll have mass all the way through. This one won't be. So this is, you'd have to need to use some relatively strong material. This is going to have a sandbox on it. And then what we can do is start to think about, let's maybe do something a little bit different. Let's try Let's take another box here. That element there, so that is 22 wide. That's 20 wide. Okay, I know I want that to be one thin. I know, let's quickly do this. So all of this section here, if I take that, if I don't want that, so left click, drag all the way around, and then we want to group all that. So let's now have a look. If I select that, 16, so that's 16 tall. So I need to take one off that, so take 17. So that, so 17 off 101. It's 83. Oh, I've done the wrong one, haven't I? Nope, wrong one again. Okay. Now let's take that down. Let's drag that. Wrong one. Let's swivel around. Where's the centre one? No, wrong one. Ah, it's there. If I do it that way. Up, up, up. Okay. Let's bring this in. Let's bring this side in. And then what we can start doing is start and look at some different shapes. We know that's 16 high, so it's effectively I should just be able to drag that onto there. Now let's rotate it by, I think it's this one. .45 degrees. Let's drag it. Okay. Let's drag that a little bit more. What I'm trying to do is get that roughly in the centre. Now that's going to be too wide. So what I need to do, something like that. And that needs to go up to 83, I think it was, wasn't it? Then we could take that, change it to our nice diarrhea, select, duplicate, and then what we can do is we can do this the reverse way. So let's do this. Oh, come on. No. Ah, that's better. Oh, you sod. This section here, where's the rotate? That's going to rotate it that way, so it's this one here. Let's move this a little bit. I want to go the other way. Hopefully this might be a little bit easier, so grab that. Why do they make these things so complicated? Okay, let's try. In fact, if I do that 90, let's do it the good old-fashioned manual way. Let's click drag. Hopefully, you can have something like that. Now, if you're going to do something of that kind of shape, I'd be tempted to either do that and then do another copy. We can drag this one over here, and we want to do that as let's do, no, let's do 45. That's better, and we get a nice flat surface. And what we can do is we can position that more in the center. I think that would be that angle looks a bit. It's so easy if this was working. Ah, there we are. 7. Probably needs to go back. That looks better. Looks more flush. But then we could probably move that back this way a little bit. What's the width for this? 13.52. Why is that 13.52? Let's do 14. What's the width for that? Let's just move that out a little bit more. $17. It's a bit fiddly. Something like that. Just something like that. And then what we can do is we can get a top here. Reduce it down to 1. And then let's move that across there. Let's drag that across. Come on. Extend that over. do, I'm just being lazy at this point and I can't be bothered to go and uncheck the other one. Okay, that looks about right. Let's do that. Probably a bit too thick at the top, so let's just bring that down. Let's change it to a nice diarrhea. Let's lift it. Okay, let's just quickly double check that. Probably just a fraction too high now. Okay. So that's a bit of a different style, that one. Probably want to take these three. I'll move them all back a little bit. So this is the thing, it's just refining it all. I mean, you could... So I'm just looking at the angles, so the spaces here. And in fact, rather than refining it, we could just take this one and just bring it back that way. So you've just got a bit more support underneath the top section and the bottom section here. So you've got a nice flat panel there. You've got two 45-degree angle sections. You've got a nice sandbox underneath to add some mass. And then you've got these pieces which would be doweled in, screwed in, attaching to the top up there. Okay, so that is another design there. Okay, I quite like something like that. Interesting. Okay. Right. So if anyone's got any questions at all, then let us know. Just give us a shout in the chat. Okay. Cool. So we've got three different designs there. So we've got a straightforward column. This one's a 3-panel piece with a shelf in the middle, and this one's again it's another 3-panel piece with a sandbox at the bottom with some different angles just to give it a bit more of a nicer look. Bit more of a more modern look. Okay, let's try and do one more. So let's highlight that. That's all locked, so that's fine. Let's move over this side this time. Let's try and create some different space. So I want to try and work with some of these themes here, and maybe just add something a little bit different. I don't want it too complicated because it's going to be a pain in the backside to try and build. And a lot of the stuff that I like doing, I like to try and, if I can, upcycle. So if I can use some materials that I've already got, would be great. So let's go again with something like, I don't want it to be that much, 26 by 30. 26 by 30, something like that. Okay, so nice flat. In fact, let's make this a little bit thicker this time. No, that one. Let's double the size of that. So it's got a nice thicker base. And then we'll do the same again. We'll click on that. We will duplicate that. We can then erase it up a little bit. Okay. And I want to try and do the same again. So let's do this section. I want it to be 12 again. So we have a sandbox again on this one. So this we need to go through. We need to bring that in. Yeah, that'll do. One more. No, it's too much. 22. And let's have a look at these sides. I can bring those in. Okay, that's looking a bit better. Okay, so we can do the same again with this one. We can do that. We can copy, lift this section, and then what I want to do again is just reduce these sides in, because this is going to be our inside of the box. And if we have a look here, I want to reduce this down by 1. Okay, so now we've got that. Let's reduce it all the way down to there. Let's double check, make sure we've got everything right. No, we haven't, so that needs to come in a bit more. One there. It's coming a bit more. One there. Okay, that looks a bit better. So we're creating a sandbox again. And this, in fact, this middle section we want to change to whole. And then we can select everything, group it, and it's going to cut out that nice little space for us. And then we can just do the same again with that. We'll drag one of them in now. Let's do another 2 thick. And let's raise this up. So the problem with these fiddly little bits like this, you've got to get in there. Okay. Bring it down one more. There, I think that's... There, okay. Let's zoom out. Let's twist there. Let's bring that out so it's flush. That can go out so that's flush. That's now 1 over, so that can go back in. No, I was wrong. There, that should be better. So now we've got almost like, oh, there we are. So it's a much better kind of sandbox style. Do that, a nice diarrhea brown. Do that, select. In fact, I'm not going to lock it just yet. Okay. Now, this is when it gets a bit interesting. What we could do is we could take these 2 sections here. Hopefully, if I then copy, raise it up, in fact, let's ungroup that for a second. This bottom piece I want to delete. Then we take that and that, group. Oh yes, fine. Do that, okay. Now with these 2 bits, let's try and flip them upside down. 180. Now the only problem with this is it's taken out our whole. Let's get that. Copy. Up. Drop that down by 2. Let's take that. Okay, now let's see where that's sitting. So let's move it. Not that one. Oh, what am I doing? Mind you, I should just be able to place that so it sits on top of the other piece. Okay, so this one again. Okay, let's take this one this time. Let's just move it out. This one needs to come up. Okay. Hopefully this will actually make sense what I'm doing in a minute. Let's lift it down, but I don't want to go down all the way. Let's leave it there. Now hopefully I can grab that. I can center it that way. Now I can hold that piece. I can, in fact, before. Let's just drop that down. One more, okay. So now I can those two I can group. Let's cut the section out in the middle. Yeah, that should be spot on now. So I do that. Now let's have a look. How far should this be? In fact, let's quickly do. I forgot to group it all. Let's do that. Let's group those elements. No, you don't. You don't want to group it. You want to do that, and you want to just lift. $14 plus 60 to 74. 85. What do I want this to be? 83, 93, 97. So that should be 99. So if I come out a bit, that should be roughly in height with that. I still don't think that's right. Where's the... Okay, I'm not going to dwell on this too much. Just want to make sure it's roughly in the position, just so you can get an idea. So we've actually got two sandboxes. So we'll have one on the bottom with a lid and a flips upside down one. This is quite important, this piece here, because you need that to overlap the bottom edges here to make sure the sand doesn't fall out, and then you'll have the top on there. So what we could effectively do, if I do that, could I ungroup that for a second? Just want that bottom section. Could I copy that? Is that going to take the whole lot? Let's try it. No, it's done what I wanted it to do. So let's do it again. Group that. Cut up. So that should be 99, which should mean that will fit across there. looks better. Do that. Do that. And then what we can then do is basically connect these sections up. So with this, I think I'm going to copy something a bit more like that, because what I'm thinking is, if you're adding weight on top, is something like this, would you need a centerpiece in there just to kind of add some rigidity to the center of the stand itself? Okay, let's just bring something in. Move that across, so that's going to be 1. What's the height of that? 15. Go around this side. And go up 1. Okay, let's have a look. So I want to move that over. I want to bring it in slightly as well. Yeah, something like that. Am I happy with that width? Yeah, something like that. Okay, that's fine. Let's zoom out a little bit. Oh, this is the bit I hate about this. Let's try and go for the... Okay, that'll do. Do that. Copy. Drag across there. Is that in line? I don't think that is. That's better. So that's more in line with that. Let's maybe not quite go... Yeah, so let's do something, let's replicate that there. So let's take this again, duplicate it, move this out, rotate it. What you got, this is what I'm finding is, with this, you want to grab that, but you want to make sure it's 90 degrees. So yeah, so you want to make sure that you don't click on the number buttons. So that should fit flush there. You could have like a flush cabinet style, but I like the look. I want something a bit more. So it's got a few more gaps in it. $16. Let's do that. It's too much that way. Something like that. Let's select those. Oh, you donut. In fact, let's just do. You should put it back into place. What I want to do is select that and that. I want to change the colour. Yep, it's got that section as well. And then I just want to repeat this element here. So let's do that. Oh, no, wrong bit. One of them. Let's do a 2 again. 255. Let's do 54, I think. Let's try that. And then we can drag that in, something like that. That looks fine that side. Go back around this side. fine now. That needs to go in a little bit. And do that to that colour there. So here's another one, a different style. And you've got, so the stand there, you've got a sand cabinet here, or a sandbox there. You've got a nice little shelf and a sandbox there. I quite like the idea of having something like a little shelf in there, just so you can stick something like a plant or just something to give the whole environment just a bit more of a nicer look. But it's going to be nice and rigid. You've got the shelf is going to add rigidity to those three columns, or those three slats there. And you've got a sandbox on the top and a sandbox on the bottom, so it should have a nice weight and mass to it. You'd have to just basically make sure that you dowel the bottoms and the tops, make sure it's in nicely. But I quite like the look of that one as well. So there's 4 different options in. So we've got that particular option there. We've got this one, which is more of a just a 3-piece with different angles with a sandbox. Got more of a hollow one with 3 pieces and a nice little shelf, and we've got just a more traditional cylinder style full of sand. So yeah, I think let's give us some different options there. I'm not entirely sure. I might work a bit more on these and see what else I can come up with. I want to see if I can do some different angles as well, because one of the things with this you can do is, let's say I've just pulled this in here, let's just lift that up, and let's just say I've got that there, and let's just bring that into, so let's put it into 2. Okay, so we've got a nice little slat there. What you can actually do is you can grab something like what am I looking for? Let's just bring something like that in. Let's lift that up. So that is 112. So if we do that as 112 there, what you could effectively do is move that. So you can effectively, actually, let's reduce this in. You can move this into something like that. Then what you could do is you could do that as a whole. Select those 2, group them, and let's give you a kind of a different style. Obviously I didn't do it particularly very well on this one, because you can see it's got a bit of a gouge taken out of it. I wonder if there's a bit more of a, I think that's probably a better one. Let's do that. Let's ungroup. Let's do that. Let's get rid of this piece here. Delete. Let's bring that one in. Because then what we can do is we can rotate that like that. We can lift that all the way up like that. What was that? That was 112. 112. Bring this in, and you can move that like, let's say that. Let's move that around, make sure that's going to do what I want it to do. Just move that a fraction that way, something like that. You could do a hole, select these 2 and join them, and it's cut that section off, so it gives you a bit more of a different shape. If I quickly ungroup, then what I could do is do that. I could copy that, move that over that side, just make sure that's all lining up where I want it to there. Yeah, I think that's about where I want it. So you could do that, select all 3 of them, then group that, and it's cut them off both sides, so it gives you a nice different shape. So it's kind of, yeah, gives you a nice different shape, and you could use something like that. In fact, I quite like that. I might do something similar to this, but with some of these kind of shapes in there, and kind of add those in there. So yeah, something a bit different, just to try and, you know, give it, it's all right having these stands, but you want to kind of make it aesthetically pleasing as well. You want to have it looking nice in your room. So I'm thinking something like this with a sandbox at the top and the bottom to add mass, something with a shelf in, 3 panels. What I'm thinking about is maybe rather than just having straight panels down the 2 sides and the back, I might have something a little bit more like that. So a bit shorter at the bottom and a bit stronger at the top, just to give it a little bit more of an aesthetically pleasing look. Yeah. So let's, yeah, that's about that, I think. Let's have a quick look, see what we've got here. Let's go back to, just have a quick look on. Okay. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. So I think we'll call it a day there, because it's kind of coming at 10:30 in the evening here. I think hopefully let's give you a few kind of design choices. I think Tinkercad's quite a nice, relatively straightforward tool to use. It's a little bit fiddly in places, but it's certainly not as bad as some of the others. Let me know what you think about this. I'm probably going to start building speakers around about early to mid-April. So I've got plenty of time to, you know, think about some of these other different options. But let me know. Let me know in the comment section down below. If you've got any design ideas, then leave some comments down below. It'd be great to kind of get some different ideas and some different input from you guys as well. Before we call it a day there, because I've had no questions come through, so before we call it a day, I just want to refer you to, I always give a shout out to someone on these live streams, and there's a YouTube channel that's come up called Acoustics Insider. And I've been taking a look at this channel. It is fantastic. So if you're not entirely sure about acoustics, how best to approach them, there's plenty of information on that YouTube channel, Acoustics Insider. Check it out. Once I've finished up this live stream, I will stick a note in the comment section of where you can find that YouTube channel. It's a great resource. It goes through all different information about acoustic panels, different types of acoustic treatment, how you want, all different acoustic concepts, how much you need, how much you want, different size materials, and all sorts. So if you want to know more about acoustic treatment, and check out Acoustics Inside of the YouTube channel, that's a great resource. So I'll leave it there. It's getting quite late here. But let me know your thoughts. Give me some feedback on some of the style choices. I really want to kind of get your input on this and have some more community input, because I want to make this kind of fun, and I want to have something that's I want it's going to be nice for the room. I don't just want to have a kind of straightforward column full of sand. I want it to look relatively nice and have a nice addition to the room as well. So let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are, and if you've got any design ideas, then I'll be very much looking forward to hearing them. So enough of my waffle for tonight. Thank you for joining me for this live stream, and yeah, thanks once again for all your support, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video coming real soon. Thanks once again, folks.